Well, good morning. It is good to be back with you. Now, popular belief out there may be that I have not been preaching for the last 4 weeks because of some PED problems, and that is not true. I just simply took a sabbatical, all right? Had a chance to study, to plan, get creative. Still a chance of not preaching every week. I've been here most every week. Last week I actually did take a little vacation, but hasn't been any kind of suspension from the league or anything like that. You know, we're all right, all right? Glad you joined us online, on TV, and here, present. First time here, we're glad you're here as well. My name's Mike, and I'm one of the pastors here at New Hope. And we're going to kick off a brand new sermon series today that's really about this idea of loose ends. You know, as Pastor Jason was saying, you get to the September and you kind of get your life back together, things you did during the summer, and some of you haven't quite taken that vacation yet, and you're going to try to squeeze it in, or maybe you just squeezed in last week. Maybe you're squeezing in today, and that's why you're not here. But whatever the case is, you know, you got all these things in your to-do list, and stuff you thought you were going to get to, and you got to most of it, but not all of it. You know, there's just these things that hang out. And so for this next month, for the month of September, we're going to be tying up some loose ends, just taking some sort of a message one week that has no connection really to the next week, to the next. We just go to 4 standalone sermons. And today, we're going to talk about your favorite topic, giving. Now, I want everybody to reach back, figure out where your wallet is right at this moment. Take your hands off it and relax, because I'm not going to ask you to give any kind of... Today is not about any kind of fundraiser. It's not about Hope for the Holidays offering. It's not about our regular offering. It's not about any of those kinds of things. In fact, it's really about a passage in the Bible that is found over in 1 Timothy chapter 6. And this is Paul, who's this older guy who's been done a lot of stuff, and he's taken Timothy on as his sidekick. And he writes to Timothy and says, hey, Timothy, these are the things you need to do as a pastor, as a minister. These are the messages you need to give. These are the things you need to encourage people about, to warn people about. And here in chapter 6, he says something to him that if you've ever read this, you've probably read it and gone, okay, but that's not me because I'm not rich. And here's what he says. He says, Timothy, when you talk to people, tell those who have the riches of this world not to be arrogant, not to kind of be built up with all the riches, and not to place their confidence in anything as uncertain as riches. Now, we understand that part, right? We understand the uncertainty of riches. If you've had money invested in the last 10 years, you understand the uncertainty of riches, right? Or the uncertainty of even jobs to produce anything. But we read that first part, the riches and the riches of this world, and we say, that's probably not me, because none of us here thinks we're rich. Well, we think of what rich looks like, what rich would feel like, and we don't feel that way, so we're not rich. But he says instead, Timothy, tell those people that are rich that they should place their confidence in God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. God provides us with everything to enjoy. Thank you, Jim. Dave, you got an amen there? Amen. Thank you, Dave. All right. Everything you have that you enjoy comes from God. That ought to be good news. And he says, listen, that's where you ought to put your confidence, in the one that really provides everything, not what you can produce, not what you have produced. And he goes on. Tell them to do good, to do a lot of good things, to be generous, and to share. If you're rich, that's God's message to you. To do good. To do lots of good things, actually. To be rich in all those good things, and to be generous and to share. See, Timothy, he says, it's not enough to just have it. You need to do something with it. And that's a message that runs so counter to what our society says, isn't it? The goal is to have it. And the more I have, the better I feel, the more confident I am. But have you noticed something? And it's a true statement. You never quite have enough. I want you to think back for a moment. Those of you that are old enough. You know, you got out of college, got that first job. Maybe you were struggling by, you know, literally the last week of the month was rice and beans. Then it was a rice and a bean, you know. It was just like you're kind of stretching. And you thought in your mind, if only I could make, and whatever the number was, $35,000 a year, $50,000 a year. Maybe you're shot a little higher, $100,000 a year. And you thought, if I could only make that, then I'd be rich. And then one day, after years of work, you got that level. And you thought, if I could only make this much more, then I'd really happy. Have you noticed how that works? Doesn't matter what level you're at, it always seems like it's never just quite enough. It's not enough just to have it. You need to do something with it, was Timothy's is Paul's message to Timothy. And he says by doing this, they store up a treasure for themselves, which is a good foundation for the future, by doing something good with what they've been given. It really stores up this treasure. It sets them on a great foundation. And it's really the only way that they can take hold of what life really is. Because life is about more than making money. And there are some people in this room today who know that's very true. Because they've made money, and they've lost all that money, and they've scrambled back trying to get it, and they know at some point that life's about more than money. You know, I've never stood by the side of somebody who's dying, and I've sadly stood by too many of those beds in a hospice or in a home setting. Nobody ever says, man, I wish I would have just given a little harder effort at my work. What if I would have, got more money out of this? The thing that everybody wants at that moment is for their family. For their family, whether they have kids or don't have kids, their spouse, their parents. They want somebody. And they all look back and say, I wish I had some more time with them. Nobody's ever said, man, Mike, I wish I had just another week. I could go back to office and finish that project that I've been working on. Then I would be all set. I'd be ready to meet God. But I've had lots of people say, I wish I had a chance to see my kid right now. We're not good. And I wish this would make it good because I don't have that long. Here's the truth of the matter. When you read that, you say to yourself, I don't feel rich. And because I don't feel rich, I'm not. This has nothing to do with me because I'm not rich. Rich is those people down the street, or those people over there, or those people I see on TV, read about in the magazines. Those are the people that are rich. But I don't feel rich. Nobody ever looks in the mirror and says, oh, I'm rich. You go, man, if I was rich, I'd do something different with all this. I'd especially do something different with this. I'd have some long flowing hair. You know what I mean? None of us feel it. And because we don't feel it, we say, I'm not rich. But here's the truth of the matter. You are rich. And I want to prove it to you. I went on this week, Global Rich List. Great website, globalrichlist.com or org, one of those things. If you made $20,000 a year, compared to the rest of the world, what do you think you're going to come out with that compared to everybody else? Here's where you are. You would be in the top 3.65% of all the world. $20,000 a year puts you in the top 4%. I want you to notice how quiet it is right at this moment. That's going to get better. If you made $35,000 this last year, you know what percentage you are? In the top 0.81%. You're a 1%er at $35,000. Let's keep going. How about $50,000? If you made $50,000 this last year, you're in the top 0.31%. You're beyond a 1%er. You're getting up in that rare area now. $75,000. 0.11%. 100,000. I know we have some people here that are 100,000ers. Here's where you come out. You're not even a 1%. You're not even a 0.1%. You're at a 0.08%. You're that one little person standing up in the top left corner. And there are some of you here today that haven't quite reached your level, 150,000. Probably have some of them here today. You would be in the 0.06%. You're rich, no matter where you fall in that whole category. And I want you to notice something. Nobody, no matter what level I brought up there, said amen. Maybe you didn't want to have everybody know how much you made. But I think it speaks to a bigger matter. We don't see ourselves as rich. And if I don't see myself as rich, then I'm not rich. And so this stuff that Paul tells Timothy to tell people that are rich to do good stuff with their money, doesn't apply to me. Now, if you're sitting there, if you're like me, you're thinking, okay, Mike, where's the 50% line? Where's the average line of the whole world, right? I mean, where's 50% are make more than you, 50% less. I want you to think in your head, where do you think? What number do you think would be the number that you would need to make to end up in the 50%, as close as I could get, 50%, 0.11? How much? For a whole year, how much would you have to make? $6,000. I have 6,000. Do I have 7? So, 2,000. All right, you got 2,000 here. 600? Yeah, go low ball, Marty. Yeah, I can't lose with low ball in there, right? Price is right. Yeah, we need to go the other way, but we'll get that later. Okay, here we go. $1,300 in a whole year. Now, if you're doing the math, that's a little over $100 a month. And if you made a little over $100 a month, you would be right at average. That sea level that I always shot for in school. Yeah, that's right where you're at. Isn't that incredible? But that's the average. That's 50% make more, 50% make less than you. $1,300 a year. You are rich. And that's a good thing. We ought to be happy about that. Seriously. Yeah, thanks, Marty. Keep working it over there. But it's the truth. But again, we don't feel, because in our minds we have a picture of what rich looks like, and rich doesn't look like what I have. Rich looks like what I have, plus if I had this, if I had a new car, my car's getting old, if I, some new furniture, maybe some new wall treatments, if I was making a little bit more, if I made this much more, this would put me in the rich category, and we need to change the way we think. Because God has blessed you. He has made you rich. And we don't like being compared to the rest of the world. We say, well, Mike, that's over there. But isn't that what we already do? We already compare. You're saying you're not rich because you're comparing yourself to somebody you think is rich. So the thing you don't want done this way, you're glad to do. I want you to write this down. Being rich isn't bad. It's not. Because if it was bad, everybody in this room would be bad. And most of us aren't. Well, a few of us wouldn't be. But it's not bad. I mean, if you've read your Bible, there's multiple stories about people that were incredibly rich. And God never says, oh, bad, 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 bad. God is always about what you do with what He gives you. What He blesses us with. And here's what I want you to think about. Being rich isn't bad. And this is not about saying, oh, we're bad, we need to give more to the rest of the world, we need to change. This is not about that. This is simply for us to own up to the reality of our own situation. If you made more than $1,300 last year, the whole year, you are better, you are in a higher income bracket than 50% of this world. We could call you rich. It wouldn't be a small richness, but you'd be in that rich category. But here's the thing I want you to think about. A what-if question. What if God has made you rich for a purpose? What if it isn't just about, getting more stuff, gathering stuff up? What if God made you rich for a purpose? What if He blessed you? What if He trusted you so that His plans in this world could be fulfilled because of what He's blessed you with? We're rich. See, if you've ever stood in front of a closet that was full and said to yourself, I got nothing to wear. You're rich. Ever stood in line with your iPhone? In line to buy another iPhone? You're rich. Ever gone to a grocery store that actually has stuff on the shelves? You're rich. If you've ever decided to go buy something, not because the thing you had already wasn't broken, but it's just kind of old and the new thing is so cool, so sweet, you're rich. And being rich is not a bad thing. This is not about getting that latest, coolest thing. This is not about saying I don't have anything to wear. This is about just owning up to who we are and the what if of why we may be who we are. Here's my conclusion when I've thought about this whole idea of giving. I think most of us want to give. We want to give. We want to be supportive. We want to be part of what's going on. But here's our issue. We're just not sure we can. And that's typically the primary thing. When I talk to people about giving, they say, I got the idea, Mike, I got the picture. I understand biblically about this whole tithe stuff and whole offerings, et cetera, beyond that. And I got the picture. My picture is not understanding. My picture is reality for me. Because I know the bills I have. I know the things that I got this to take care of and that to take care of. I know all that stuff. So I'm just not sure I can. And I'm convinced it's not that we're greedy. Not that we're greedy, we want the latest this or that. That's not the point. It's that we're fearful. We're afraid that if we became a regular giver, and I'm talking about cold, hard cash that you've worked hard to earn, and if I took and I gave that intentionally away to a church, to a place that helped people or did something over here, some way that I was giving intentionally, regularly support, that I'm not sure I'd have enough for myself. And the truth of the matter is, for most of us, if we're honest, our lives are ruled by our fears. Think about your life for a moment. Think about the fears you have. And I want you to know, this summer, I have faced one of my fears, and I did something very stupid. And I can prove you it's stupid. You just got to ask my wife about this later. She will tell you it was stupid. It was a dumb idea. Still a dumb idea because I still have it. This summer, I went out and bought myself a motorcycle. Because I'm rich. Yeah, you all clapping now. My wife thinks, why in the world that somebody that's your age, over 35, why do you laugh at that? Why would somebody at your semi-advanced age go and buy something that you have never ridden, or when you rode it, it was back when you were a teenager? This is a dumb idea. And you're going to get yourself, some of you, the wives all go killed, the guys go hurt. You can just see the whole different picture there, right? But there's actually a good reason for it. And it's more than just, I've always thought the idea of riding a motorcycle would be cool, all the, hey, wind blowing through your hair kind of picture going on. But honestly, I have bought it because I'm scared to death of being on a motorcycle. I like the cool part of it, but the fearful part is the part that just shakes me up. I've had it for about 2 months now, and I think I've ridden it maybe 5 times. Every time when I get home, Lori's like, oh, thank God. You got home safely? Anything happened? But for me, it's about facing that fear. And it's a real fear, because it's not just a little mess up and, I got an extra bill here to pay. I got to replace somebody's window because I broke it out with a baseball. This is a fear of, not only could I get hurt, I could get really hurt, Killed, thank you, yes, thank you. Get it right, yeah. But it's true. But for me, it's about the fear issue at this stage in my life. And not wanting to fear, because I know my life, just as your lives, are controlled by fear. And someplace we got to face those fears. And for some of us in this room, it's the fear about this idea of giving. We're fearful. If we made that commitment and said, okay, God, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to start giving you from the very top and not at the end of things, not the leftover part, but I'm going to give you at the top, and I don't know how this works, but I'm going to step out in faith because I'm fearful of this. For most of us, that's the issue. It's not that we don't want to give. We're just not sure we can, and it's not that we're greedy. It's just that we're afraid. We're afraid that if I give it, I won't have it. And I would simply remind you of this one stone cold truth. You already have it. And it's been given you by the one that has asked you to give for your sake. Not for his sake, not for this church's sake, not for any organization's sake, but for your sake. Bob Goff's a great guy. He's kind of become a hot speaker, writer recently. If you ever have a chance to listen to this guy, see this guy, go see him. He's one of these over-the-top, crazy, guy that you'd always want as your friend, but probably wouldn't want to be married to him. He's just kind of out there, crazy, does crazy stuff, wonderful stories. But he's a guy that just fully embraces life. And this is from a statement he made, and I just love it. It's about faith. And it really relates to this whole idea of giving. Faith is about deciding what to hold on to, what to let go of, and whose all of it is. And what a statement for us in our lives. if we could grasp faith in that kind of concept, this idea of what do I need to hold on to? What are the security things that all of us have, and what do I need to hold on to? What's the most important things to hold on? And what should I let go of? What are the things that are kind of holding me back because I kind of like being held back, even though I don't want to be held back? And ultimately, whose is all of this anyways? And if you haven't figured it out, everything you have, well, you can say, well, I worked hard for it, or my parents did, and I got this in an inheritance, or, I won the lottery, or whatever your case is. All of it is ultimately God's. He just lets us steward. He just lets us manage. He just lets us take care of it. And because we're rich, He's asked to take care of a bigger portion than the rest of the world gets. And here's the truth. Giving aligns your life with God's plan, because it reconnects you with the one that's already given you everything. And when I begin to give, I begin to recognize that He's already given me everything. And my giving helps me align my heart with God's plan. Now you're thinking, well, Mike's getting ready to make the big appeal, because now he's kind of setting us up, align with God's plan. Okay, and now today, folks, if you will only give $100 a month, your life's going to align with plans. And I'm not telling you that. What I am telling you is, if you want a closer walk with God, begin to give. Now, you may be thinking, whoa, hold on, Mike. You can't tell me that's the way to have a close relationship with God. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to actually let Jesus tell you that in just a moment. But before we get there, I want to walk you through just some suggestions on how to give, all right? Real quickly. First of all, don't do the math. Because the one thing that happens when people start thinking about giving is, how am I going to make this work? And there are people in this room, and I've had a number of people talk to me already in the last few weeks about this. There are people in this room who would tell you that when they begin to give regularly a set percentage of their income, they had no way to make it. It should not work out in their income. Their budget shouldn't work out this way, but at the end of the month, at the end of 6 months, at the end of a year, you know what? It all works out. And if you try to do the math and say, I'm going to live on 90% or 80% or whatever you kind of decide is going to be your risk point, when you begin to say that, I don't know how it's going to work, if you do the math, it will not work. But folks, this is not about math. This is about a God who's already made you rich, already poured into your life, and is just asking you to recognize that at whatever level it works. And if you do the math, you got the wrong focus. Secondly, don't save. Because here's what I've discovered. When we want to save, I've had people tell, Mike, I want to give, I'm going to give once I get this taken care of, once I get that taken care of, once the kids get out of this, we kind of save, I'm saving. We keep kicking that can down the road. Because there's always something that we're saving for. You're saving for your kids' education? Jared, pay attention to this. You should have started 10 years ago. You save for your kids' education, right? Then you save for college, you save for a new car, you save for this, you get down the road, and once you get that all paid off, then you say, now I got to save for retirement? And again, you should have started that 10 years ago. When we begin to think we got to save, we're often too late. We wait too long to give. Thirdly, don't be unemotional. And I know that's not the right spelling. Don't talk to me later, because I already know it's not the right spelling. But we live in a great country and a great world. You can make up words, and if they connect, they become a new word, right? And we got twerking, we got all this stuff that we're not words, right? But here's what I mean. Unemotional. So often when we talk about giving, people say, well, tell me what I'm giving for. Move me. Show me pictures of starving kids. Show me pictures of devastation. Show me stuff that just moves me, that forces conviction on me, so I can't stand it up, that I just got to shell some money out. And I think that's a terrible way to do it. But if you listen to anybody who talks about giving today, they say that's what you got to say. You got to start with a story. You got to grab people's hearts. And my take is, if God hasn't already grabbed your heart, I shouldn't be grabbing on your heart. But I think we need to be emotional because, and my prayer for a number of years now has been consistently, God, give me your heart. Put in my heart the things that are on your heart. And I say that because I know my heart is a pretty closed heart. I am a cynical, sarcastic pessimist by nature. It's a terrible combination. And it doesn't make me feel like I need to help somebody else. And I grew up in a cop's home. So I look at everybody. carefully. And you start off with the idea that you don't trust anybody. You believe the worst about people versus believing the best about people. And it's taken me a long time, through God's grace, to change. I'm much more optimistic today. I'm much more give people the benefit of the doubt today. But it still is a struggle for me. And it's a struggle because I know that I can always justify, I always explain away why not to give easier than I can why to give. And I've discovered for myself that for me it's a hard issue. It's an emotional thing, but it's not emotional in the, oh man, I saw this story, I just got to give this. It's about, am I sensitive to the emotion that God's trying to put in my heart? So don't be uni-emotional. Lastly, do something somewhere. You don't have to give to this church. This is not about giving to New Hope Church. This is about giving because of what it does for you, not what it does for us. Because if you'll give, what it will do for you is help you face those fears in your life. It'll help you recognize that Mike's right, the math doesn't work. Help you recognize that saving doesn't guarantee anything. It'll help you recognize that if I'm just waiting to be moved by some emotion, it doesn't work. What works is the connection, the trust, and the opportunity for God to show himself true in your life. When you give back to him what's already his in the first place. See, it would have been easy today to go down the trail and, so the way some preachers do and say, if you give God 10, he's going to give you back 100-fold. Anybody ever hear that? It's one of the stupidest things I ever heard, right? I mean, who wouldn't give that? I'll throw in $10 to see if I get 100 back, Get 100, I'll throw up. Go again. If this is a guaranteed thing, anybody would be stupid not to do that. Which, by the way, you'd be stupid to believe that, right? Or we could have gone down that. God says you're supposed to give. That settles it all. But that's not what this is about. This is about you. This is about you and your relationship with God. And this is about you and your relationship with God that connects with a part of all of us. It's this thing called money, this thing called riches, this thing called wealth. It's what Jesus talks about over in Matthew chapter 6. You've probably heard this before if you've been around a church. It's always the go-to line when we talk about giving. But I don't want us to miss, and this is the Amplified version, so it's going to be a little bit longer than yours. But he simply says this. Jesus says, listen, do not gather and heap up and store up yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust and worm consume and destroy, and where thieves break through and steal. How many of you have ever had your home broken into? It's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? It kind of brings warmth to your heart. Your first thought is, oh man, I'm so vulnerable, I didn't even call. I thought I was safe in my home. Now my home's not even, where am I going to be safe at now? Or you ever had, stuff and it gets destroyed by, worms or moth or rust out, all that kind of stuff. We begin to recognize that everything we try to store up has a best by date, that we can't keep it, we can't store it away forever. And so Jesus says, listen, but gather up and heap up and store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust nor a worm consume and destroy, and where thieves do not break through and steal. And so he's given this contrast. Put it where it's safe, not where it's not safe. And then he makes the great line, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And Jesus makes this such an important connection for us that it's so easy for us to miss. And it's simply this. He says, listen, you've worked hard. You've worked hard for what you have, and I don't want all your efforts to go to waste. And if you just put it here, you heap it up here, you pile it up here, it's going to go to waste because stuff's going to happen to it. It's just the way it works. And I don't want that to waste. But Jesus says, I don't want that to waste for it. And he says, the place where your treasure is, the place that you will most want to be, where it's all going to end up, you get to control that. Because he doesn't say, and I want you to notice this, he doesn't say where your heart is, your treasure follows along. That's how we kind of think. We love the romance of it all, right? You see somebody, maybe you're kind of been frugal with your money, wise with your money, cheap other people would say, but you're on track here. But all of a sudden you meet somebody, and you start spending the money on that person, where we're kind of warm, the whole romance, I fall in love and you're going to follow. That's a great picture, but that is not what Jesus says happens. He says where you put your money, where you put your treasure, where you put your investment, your time and energy, it pulls your heart along with it. And some of us here in this room know that by experience, a hard lesson. Because you have poured your treasure, you have put your time and your energy into your work. And when you come home at night, you can't turn it off. You bring your work home because it's my work. I take care of my family. You know, we have all the stuff that we justify. But you've proved to yourself that where you put your treasure, your heart goes as well. And Jesus says, and this is such an important thing, that you and I get to control where our hearts are going to end up. It's by where we put our treasure, where we put our time, energy, where we give to, because our hearts have this amazing link to our wallets. It's like this umbilical cord. And where it goes, we tend to go. And we've all made an impulse purchase, right? How many of you have ever noticed that when you go to check out at a grocery store, you walk out, up high, they have there's wonderful magazines like Daily News, The Inquirer, Post, Us, People. Everybody knows that? And nobody wants to notice that? Okay, that's fine. Because I know, and you know. But you know, so you got that stuff up high for you. You got some gum, because you need to use stuff for your breath after you had lunch, and all the gum. Then you get candies, and you get toys. Everything is at the right level for the right people, right? And their whole goal is for you to say, oh, it's only a couple bucks. Oh, really? Jolena and Brad were doing this? Oh, I got to grab that, you know? Oh, look at the celebrity stuff here. Oh, they're happening. Oh, you know. We see the stuff. Oh, it's only going to be a couple. And we throw it all away. Here's my question. All of us have made an impulse purchase at some point. Have you ever missed the money that you impulsed away? You know, later went, oh man, I was gonna get this, but I don't have enough because I remember, I'd spent kind of just on stuff. Here's the truth of the matter. You never miss money you intentionally give away. Because you intentionally did something with it. And you have placed it in a place where it can do greater good than just simply in your pocket or simply, you know, in your mouth because you're chewing the gum or reading the stuff or going through it all. Giving is simply about us recognizing who God is, what He's given us, and what He hopes we'll do with what He's given us. We're rich. I want you to say that with me. We're rich. Turn to your neighbor and say, you're rich. Turn to the other neighbor and say, you're rich. Now you say, I'm rich. Because we are, right? Thank you. We ought to be happy and proud and rich. There's nothing bad with being rich. We have painted this picture. And that's why one of the reasons I don't think we believe we are, because we want to avoid rich people. We've seen people that were stupid rich, terrible with their riches, arrogant with their riches, which is what Timothy was told to warn people about. Tell those that are rich not to be arrogant, not to be stupid with their money, not to put all their faith and trust in money, but to put their faith and trust in God who's given them all in the first place. And tell them to do good with it, to be rich in what they do with it, to be good deeds, to make a difference, to recognize that maybe, just maybe, God has made you rich, and you rich, and you rich, and me rich. Maybe He's blessed us. Maybe He has trusted us with that so that His plans here could be fulfilled. And what it does to us is it connects us with Him through the process. There's this Connect card that Pastor Jason talked about earlier. I want to invite you to take it out. Back is just some next steps. And we just love to see kind of what is going on in people's lives. And our goal every week is to help you take, some kind of step, a big step, a little step, a baby step closer to Jesus, closer to what God's trying to do in your life. And so these are just some next steps that maybe you may want to take today. Maybe your next step today is simply to embrace my wealth as a gift. to embrace what you have as a gift from God. Maybe your next step today is to reaffirm that all I have is God's. For some of us, that's an important step, to recognize it's not mine, it's really His. Or maybe your next step today is to align your life with God's plan by becoming a regular giver, to face that fear, to face that thing that I'm not sure it's going to work out, to begin to take that step to see if God is really who He is. So I hope you'll take some next step today. And in just a few moments, you will have a chance to respond to that by giving an offering. And if you're visiting with us today, wouldn't expect anything from you other than this Connect card. But this is a way that those that consider New Hope their home a chance to give. And I want to walk you just through some steps regarding your giving here. Let me just say this. As a church, we do our best here. We do our best to stretch out the money, to put it in the right places, but here's the reality. And our best isn't always good enough. And that's honest. Sometimes our best isn't good enough. We don't have enough education, we don't have enough patience, we haven't thought it through enough, but our goal is always to do our best. At times we make mistakes, and here's my hope. Hopefully they're honest ones. There are mistakes we've made this last year with the money that you've given us with. I'll give you one example. And everybody sees it, feels it every week they come. It's our parking lot. We had a guy last fall, kept giving us this great deal, kept cutting down the price, had this, into the summer sale. He was getting ready to do this big job. I'm going to do this for you, do this for you, do this for you. We checked out a couple stuff. It seemed okay. We got it done. He did a terrible job, and he disappeared. That was an honest mistake. And we own that. We were trying to do what's best to extend the life, but it doesn't always work. But I want you to recognize that things wear out, they don't last, and they have to be redone. And the truth of the matter is that's what they're designed to do. And I would rather have this building, this property wear out than to sit as a monument, as a museum to God, where everybody sits and everybody pays, nobody brings, don't take careful, because we got to keep it perfect for God. I think perfect for God is a place that gets worn out, that has to keep getting renewed and renewed and renewed because it's getting used for something good. I want to thank you for giving to a place that's doing something for this community, for this world, and for you each week as you come. And I want to thank you again for what you give.